Well, let me begin by thanking IDSA for giving us this opportunity to join this very important event, very important conference series. I think I am coming to this series of conferences after a number of years, and I'm very, very delighted to be part of such a distinguished panel. Very quickly, because we are running short of time, I'd like to share a few thoughts on regional economic integration and connectivity in South Asia, and just begin, although it may be very clear to many in this audience, the relevance of regionalism. So let me just put a few facts on the table to, I mean, why different regions have gone in for in enhance or deepen regional cooperation and integration. The regionalism actually became a very important trend in the world economy in the 1990s with the rise of very important blocs like European Union, North American Free Trade Agreement, and Mercosur in the South America, the SADC in Africa, and ASEAN, of course, has gone very far. And why it became an important trend is the fact that there was a recognition of economics of neighborhood, which included the ability to exploit the potential of efficiency-seeking industrial restructuring across borders, economies of vertical specialization, and regional value chains. And it was demonstrated in a number of studies, including the Cecchini report, which was a precursor to the single European market plan in Europe, that these economies could be very substantial. And in the European case, it was demonstrated to be roughly equivalent to 3% of the GDP. So all different regions started to experiment with the regional economic integration of a very deeper variety. And the other thing was the realization that regional economic integration could also lead to more balanced and more equitable development because relatively smaller and lesser developed parts in the regional economic integration scheme benefit from industrial restructuring. The industrial restructuring takes place in such a manner that relatively smaller and lesser developed parts get more of this, and so it is equalizing, or it leads to balanced regional development. And some literature which has come on the experiences of the regional groupings around the world has actually documented that it does lead to that kind of industrial restructuring, which is of more balanced type. And I will come to it later. In the South Asia also, you have some examples to demonstrate this equitable or balanced regional development part. The other is the change new context, change external context for development, which is actually the very recent thing. As you know, after these Lehman Brothers led the crisis, the global financial crisis of 2008-2009, it is very clear and that the erstwhile motors or engines of growth of the world economy, the US and North America, Europe, European Union or Eurozone, if you like, which have been, importing in a large quantities from Asia, and Asian economies were able to grow rapidly by exporting their way out to the Western economies or advanced economies. It will not be possible to go back to this business as usual, which prevailed before 2008. And the reason is that these advanced economies are in for a new normal of subdued growth for many years to come. The latest economic outlook of IMF, for instance, you see that for next 5 years, they are projecting under 2% kind of growth rate of the advanced economies for next 5 years. And the projections, of course, do not go for longer period than that, but it's very unlikely that for in a foreseeable future, the advanced economies will, move up to a higher growth trajectory. And the regions are the accumulation of huge debts, which require them to unwind this, indebtedness through consuming less and saving more, exporting more and importing less. And that means that the way they were, importing from Asia, it will not be possible in the future. And that means the Asian economies need to rebalance their growth engines in favor of regional rather than global, integration. And the other is the stalemate in WTO process of negotiations or multilateral trade negotiations. Doha round is stuck for last 12 years. And the other important thing which is pushing various regions for economic integration and cooperation is that there are shared vulnerabilities. There is a greater recognition of shared vulnerabilities and risks, not only of the financial crisis, global financial crisis type, but also all kinds of natural disasters and hazards, including food security and energy security, climate change, disasters which are striking all different regions, including South Asia, with a greater ferocity and frequency. So if there are regional, vulnerabilities, you can address them more effectively with a regional approach. And the other thing is that looking around the region and the world, there are incipient trends towards forming bigger integrated blocks in Asia. There is this regional comprehensive economic partnership, RCEP, which is taking shape with 16 countries negotiating a trade bloc, and this is ASEAN plus 6 grouping, and an integrated South Asia would be better able to play its due role in formation of emerging broader regional economic integration in Asia and the Pacific. So these are some facts I wanted to put before you before moving to what I'm going to say. Now, about this region's overall trade performance, I think they have over the past decade integrated with the global economy and benefited from the expansion of global trade. And if the past trend is any guide for future, the total trade of this region, South Asia, could be tripling by 2017. But this is very much subject to the global demand expanding in the way it was in the past, which I just said is questionable. But other thing is that if you decompose the sources of growth of trade of the South Asian countries, you find that they have been able to do that through exploiting the opportunities of expanding global trade, rather than by moving up the value chain or exploiting the diversification, across markets or across commodities. And in particular, the least developed countries, LDCs of this region, are having very highly concentrated productive structure. Bangladesh, for instance, derives most of its export earnings from exporting just garments, and so nearly 80%. So it's a very highly concentrated export structure. Very little diversification across products and markets has taken place, and that is not very, very conducive for exploiting the advantages of trade. And so regional cooperation could also help in moving up the value chain in products or sectors of common export interests, including garments and tea, leveraging the Indian leadership in, say, BPO sector or the software industry to make South Asia as a hub of the services could be another possibilities. Then coordination in global trade negotiations, which they sometimes do because of their common interests, could of course be highly productive. Now, coming to the potential of regional economic integration, and this is where all different analysis have shown that the potential remains largely unexploited. And we made some projections which suggest that intra-regional exports could add to this region $72 billion of additional exports by 2017 if we were to exploit the opportunities for intra-regional trade. And there are various barriers. Dr. Mukherjee was just talking about trade and tariff and non-tariff barriers in India-Pakistan case, but this is a general pattern, and because of high tariffs sometimes and very often the NTBs, lot of trade actually takes place informally or through third countries, and we estimated that the informal trade could be as large in this region as large as $10 billion per year. And other region for unexploited potential is the poor connectivity and trade facilitation, which leads to high trade costs for intra-regional trade. In fact, it is very striking to see that the costs for doing trade within the South Asia are generally higher than exporting to Europe or North America. And that means the benefits of geographical proximity or contiguity are not available to South Asian trade, and that has prevented South Asia from benefiting from formation of regional value chains, regional production networks, for instance. And this is the situation despite the presence of many trade arrangements. This SAARC, of course, is the most comprehensive one in this region, but there are other overlapping frameworks like BIMSTEC and the ECO, Economic Cooperation Organization, of which Afghanistan and Pakistan are members. So, and there are many bilateral agreements, and like between India and Sri Lanka, or India Nepal, India Bhutan, and Pakistan Sri Lanka, among others. So all different studies that have used these CG, computable general equilibrium based approaches, have come up with one consistent finding that per unit of GDP, per unit of national income, the greatest gains of regional economic integration would accrue to the poorer countries. And this is consistent with what I was saying earlier, that regional economic integration could lead to balance and equitable development. The other example, which is actual empirical exercise, is this India-Sri Lanka FTA, which was signed in 1998 and became effective from 2000, has led to a very healthy expansion of India-Sri Lanka trade. But the way it has happened, which was demonstrated by a study actually when I was in RIS, I got it done through Professor Saman Kelegama of Sri Lanka and Ayan Mukherjee, who is sitting here, our co-panelists. That demonstrated that in 7 years of its operation, this India-Sri Lanka FTA led to expansion of bilateral trade by 300%. But the way it happened is very interesting, that the India-Sri Lanka trade ratio, was 10:1, that India exported to Sri Lanka 10 times as much as Sri Lanka exported to India. But over time, after this FTA, it came down to 3:1. So that means Sri Lanka was able to expand its exports much faster to India than India could to Sri Lanka. And how did this happen was through lot of investments. So India today is the third largest source of investment to Sri Lanka. And how it happened was that a number of Indian companies invested in Sri Lanka in joint ventures or sole ventures for exporting from Sri Lanka. and making Sri Lanka as a base for their production. So today, what Sri Lanka exports to India it includes number of value-added products, manufactured value-added products, which it never exported to India ever before, and they are quite a few of them are produced by joint ventures between Indian companies and Sri Lankan companies. And now Sri Lankan companies are also investing in India. An example is this Brandix, special economic zone in Visakhapatnam, which is putting together the entire value chain for textile and garments in one single location. So many such things have shown that intra-regional trade and its expansion or regional economic integration could lead to more balanced, kind of patterns of development, where the smaller and poorer countries benefit more than the larger and more developed economies. And then the recent developments between, say, India, Pakistan, which Ayn Mukherjee was describing, gradual move from positive list basis approach to negative list and eventually MFN, that could be very helpful. And what is also recently done is that India eliminating or phasing out entirely the sensitive list for LDCs has helped in healthy expansion of intra-regional trade. For instance, in India, Bangladesh's exports to India tripled nearly, in 1 year, after this sensitive list was phased out. Now, what can be done to exploit the potential of regional economic integration? And I will go very quickly over that. Of course, the time frame that was set for SAC, how much time? Oh, only. Oh, okay. Then I finished this. And the time frame was very long, and I think learning from ASEAN's experiences to, as you move along, you expedite and, move back or push back the implementation period. Something like that is to be done in South Asia. Then exploiting the potential of trade in services. There is a framework available in SATIS, but actual liberalization is yet to happen. There is a tremendous potential of intra-regional investment, which is not being facilitated because the multilateral agreement, the SAARC agreement, is held up somewhere. And if I think the industrial restructuring, which is the best part of regional economic integration, happens through investment. If you are not facilitating investment, you are not really reaping the harvest of regional economic integration. Then strengthening the cross-border banking and financial links is very critical for promoting regional trade, and in particular also the possibility of allowing regions, companies to raise capital on or list themselves on the capital markets of neighboring countries could be very fruitful. And then let me just focus half a minute on the connectivity, which I think is very critical for regional economic integration. And here you find that South Asia is better connected in terms of trade links with Europe than with itself. And the three regional groupings, SAARC, BIMSTEC, and ECO, they are all working on their own trade corridors. But as you know, transport corridors, like any networks, have this concept of network externalities. And when you extend any network, the benefits of that extension grow disproportionately, So it is better to work on integrated long corridors so that this region can become a hub of trade, not only of its own trade, but of trade of third countries and outside the regions. So we are making a case for very large integrated corridors that link all the way from Myanmar to to South Asia to all the way to Turkey, so that this region emerges as a southern Silk Route, if you like. and then it becomes a sort of hub of trade of East and the West. And for that, a number of things, of course, are needed. But infrastructure, fortunately, is generally in place, which needs a little, strengthening and upgradation. So let me skip all these slides and go to the concluding remarks. Regionalism assumes a new criticality in the change external context, which I was talking about. And this is a time to move towards the vision of integrated South Asian economic space connected with itself and with the rest of the region. Need to expedite the implementation of regional trading arrangements and further deepen them to move towards customs union and beyond. Importance of services liberalization and investment promotion. Recognition of the criticality and potential of regional transport and energy connectivity, which is very critical. Closing the infrastructure gaps and upgradation of some other parts of those corridors, and a regional transit agreement which is needed to enable cross-border movements. And only with that, South Asia will be able to play its due role in the incipient broader regionalism in Asia and make the 21st century the Asian century. Thank you.